All right, here we go. Ready in three, two, and one.
We haven't done one of these in a little while, so I thought it's probably time to do this.
Yeah, why the fuck not? Welcome to episode 251 of Nerdery and Murdery.
Big 251. I'm Zig with your nerdery.
And I'm Jeffrey with your Murdery. Welcome to another week of the highs and lows, the ups and downs, the good and the bad, the nerd, the murd. Um, we had in my author support group that I started on Facebook, which is affectionately now known as ASS, because it's Author Support Sanctuary. I didn't even think about that when I created the name, but we're embracing it now. Yeah. Yeah. Your sound went out. You're laughing so hard your sound went out. You
A little
put
bit.
out your own mic.
I want to cut
Um,
out my mic.
but anyway, one of the authors on there who I've also made as an admin, Adam. I've been on his podcast. Um, uh, 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 fin- Dadgummit, Finnick about it. Finnick,
Yeah,
I'm
think about
pronouncing
it.
it wrong. Finnick about it. I don't want to pronounce it wrong. I was on his show. I had a lot of fun on his show, but he started a book club and Prime Numbers got featured for February, and we reviewed it. I hate that you weren't on it. You would have loved it because it was not just about my book. We tailed off into so many different conversations.
I listened to the whole thing. I was just like 2 days late on it.
Yeah,
I heard it all and I was like commenting. I was like, shit, this isn't live.
no, it's not live. I mean, we got into Heroes of Might and Magic.
Mhm.
We got into past RPGs, got into so much stuff, and it was so much fun. I love,
Explaining to this lady who grew up in the Soviet Union
yes.
what an RPG was. She's
Yeah,
like, "Oh, that sounds fascinating."
yeah, she's really cool. I've loved her book. I read her book, The Queen of Northern. Um, Really fascinating. I'm can't wait to dive into more of her series. Hers is very romance fantasy, which I typically would not read, but hers was
Hmm.
very good. I enjoyed every piece of it. I mean, I was very emotionally involved with the characters, and I even told her, I said, the one part that threw me out of the story, and don't get me wrong, you wrote it beautifully, was the sex scene at the end. It was graphic, it was raw, and it was one of
Supposed to
those
be.
and it was one of those when I was sitting there reading it. Chelsea came in, she said, "Hey, what are you reading?" I was like, nothing, nothing,
Smut.
you know. But she wrote it very well. Um, and so hers was the first book that we did. Prime Numbers, it's all been very random. Prime Numbers came up second, and we covered ours. But yeah, just the whole round table where it went to so many different conversation was just amazing, amazing and fun. We recorded for 2 hours
Hmm.
of just talking. So really, really cool. I love these book clubs. Hopefully, you'll get in on the next one. The book itself sounds fascinating. Called One Second Too Late, I think it, or
1 second.
5 seconds too late. I don't have it here in front of me. Very fascinated to read it because I'm a big fan of Stephen King's 11/22/63 about a man who goes back in time to prevent the
Hmm.
JFK assassination.
Hmm.
This book, from what I understand, I haven't dived into it yet, is about the moral complexity on if you could go back in time and change something, would you? It's a big moral conundrum because a lot of people talk about if you could go back in time and murder Adolf Hitler before he committed the atrocities in World War II, would you? A lot of people say yes, but 11/22/63 dives into this, and I'm hoping his book does as well. What changes because you do that?
Yeah. It's like the alternate history of Delinda Est.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. It's the world. You basically end the Roman Empire's hegemony over Europe, which changes everything.
Sure.
So North America gets settled by basically a Welsh-speaking Gaelic community instead of, you know, the different types of Europeans that get here,
Mm-hmm.
which had all been effectively part of the Roman Empire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's
And
it,
yeah,
it
and the guy's like, if I go back and change it, all of these people are going to die.
yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting concept. I mean, they talk about this in Avengers Endgame because Tony Stark says we only go back and take him out. Nothing else changes.
Hmm.
We bring everybody back, but nothing else changes because he doesn't want to lose the daughter he now has.
Yeah.
And he's afraid if they change too much that that'll change. So it's a fascinating topic. I can't wait to read the book. Hopefully you'll join the next one as well. But anyway, yeah, so we've got a music list for today. I will be back on my A to Z train. So Zig, I'll let you take it away to the nerdy side of the house.
Okay. We've basically mostly been doing genres and scenes, as opposed to just a straight up indie list. And I've been listening to some indie music recently, and I realized there's some older stuff that we may not have talked about. So I did a 10 more indie songs you should have in your playlist grouping. Um, so I'm going to start with the first one. It is Gone by Kells. Kells is originally from Pittsburgh. She's been based in Atlanta for 3 years. She gained significant buzz when she went on a 52-show U.S. tour in 2023, independently with no management and no label. Her following grew by 5 times while she was on the road for 8 months on her own. Her fans funded the entire tour. Kells recently headlined the Atlanta Jazz Festival in May of 2024, opening for Andre 3000. In 2024, she headed back on another independent tour for the 25-show run in the Northeast that started in August of 2024 with co-signs from both Big Boy and Timbaland. She is currently working on her debut EP and album in 2025. She has since completed it. I don't think it's quite been released yet, but she has had a pretty big following, and she's made some videos for basically the lead single, which is Gone. Uh, she calls it dirty blues. So here's kind of the rundown that I've been able to piece together, because again, not a lot of information coming out of this because she's really fairly new. She moved from Pittsburgh, and she moved in with her grandparents in Atlanta when she was like 18. So instead of going to school or anything, she basically started her own house cleaning business. And that's how she funded making her recordings. And she would sing on the weekends and at night, basically burning the candle at both ends. She made up enough money, plus she launched a TikTok page and a website where she had just enough money to basically go from one town to another. So every week she went to a different place in 2023. At one point, she couldn't sing on the street, so she rented a storefront in this town that had a basically a storefront window in this little town, and she sat inside the storefront window and sang "Gone." So there's videos of this, and it's really kind of cool because she's like sitting at a storefront window, just singing her ass off. Um, but yeah, she calls it dirty blues, and it basically harkens back to uh, like old soul from the 60s and the 70s, um, with some roots rock elements into it, but it's definitely a southern soul sound. Even though she's from Pittsburgh, she spent most of her life in Atlanta. Matter of fact, the video that I've shown, her grandparents are in it. It's filmed in and around their house. She basically lives in a little side house in their place in Atlanta because she's mostly touring, and when she comes home, that's where she goes. But yeah, she's basically toured all over the US for the last couple of years, basically self-funding. And then she'll come home, she'll work for a couple of weeks with her little cleaning business. She cleans houses, and there's videos of her cleaning as well. She's like, I'm doing this to fund my stuff. But she's finally getting to where she can stop cleaning houses for a living because people are starting to take notice, mostly because of what a great singer she is. But yeah, she's been touring uh, the U.S. for the last 2.5 years, and it seems to be finally getting her some notice. What do you think about "Gone" by Kells?
Is this the one that you told me before the show would be the one everybody likes?
Yeah.
Awesome. So I listened to the song. I got all the way through this song. Um, this is a giant ass nope for me. Nope,
What?
no, I hate that style of singing. I hate it. Can't stand it. I hated the video. That video is nothing but abuse of two men. Hated it. Hated it. There's a video that used to show as an ad on Facebook all the time, and it was for some game. I think it was a slot game or something like that. But it glorified um, the physical hitting of women
Mhm.
in the video, and I mean people went nuts over this video and demanded it got taken down. It eventually got taken down. This one glorifies abuse of a couple of men, and I did not like that in the video at all. I hated her singing. Couldn't I liked nothing about that song.
Oh man,
Nothing.
I love this tune. I
No
think she's badass. She sings her ass off. I,
giant
I
note for
love
me.
I
Don't
love
like
that
that
dirty
singing.
blue sound.
Not me.
It it's beautiful.
Nope. Style I do not like. Sorry.
The next song in the list is I would recommend everybody go out and listen to this list because
Oh,
it's all
sure.
the next
Sure.
song in the list.
Tell me I'm wrong. I'm not, but
I
tell me
didn't say
I'm
you were
wrong.
wrong. I'm just saying.
No, I
I
mean our listeners. Tell me I'm wrong. I don't
oh
care.
oh.
I know I'm not, but tell me I'm wrong.
Well, if you don't like it, then you don't like it.
I know because I'm not wrong.
The next song is "Please Do Not Go" by the Violent Femmes. Again, this is an older one. Um, People don't realize this is actually an independent album because this was their biggest album. And I did listen to a very extended interview with them about a week or 2 weeks before I wrote this list up. Um, Basically, they're explaining how the band kind of happened. What it was Brian Ritchie and Blaze Garza um, were playing together in different type of punk bands, but also jazz and folk and other stuff. And they came across this young singer. When I say young, he was still like a senior in high school when they met, named Gordon Gano. Gordon was going to move back because they're all in from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Gordon was originally from New York, New York City, and his family moved to Milwaukee because his dad is a like an Episcopalian preacher, and he got assigned to a parish in Milwaukee, quite a big one. And his mother is also a scholar. So Gordon Gano's musical tastes were all over the place because even in some of the Violent Femmes albums, they explore some old gospel tunes, just and they're beautiful. Um, but it's just because their music tastes vary, but they were kind of dialed in on folk and punk. So Gordon, because he was kind of a small geeky kid, he would never get invited to parties or anything on the weekends. So uh, he got bored, so he would write songs. This is while he was, you know, freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior in high school. And he had such a basically a bag full of song lyrics that he brought it to these two guys, and they started playing together. Well, no one knew what to classify them as because again, there's definitely a punk rock element. There's also a folk element associated, which is why I picked the song that I picked from this album because it kind of blends a lot of those things together. Um, it's maybe not necessarily the one they're most famous for, but what they would do is they would busk on the street, even though they didn't know the word for it, because they couldn't get booked to play a gig. They went to this one gig where they were supposed to get booked, and they played for the dude. He's like, no, I'm not interested. So they went outside and they started playing on the street because the Pretenders were going to play at this other venue later on that night. So they're playing on the street, and uh, uh, Steve Honeyman Scott from the Pretenders, walks out, starts listening to him, goes back inside, grabs the rest of the band. They're all listening to him. And the guys are playing. They don't realize what's going on. They're just playing. They look up and uh, uh, Christine is from the Pretenders is laughing, walks over to him and says, "Hey, you guys want to play a gig tonight?" So their first live gig was opening for the Pretenders. Um, so, or I said Blaze Garza. It's Victor De Lorenzo. Victor De Lorenzo, who is their drummer. Again, he's a jazz guy. He's about 10 years older than Brian Ritchie. Brian Ritchie was like 22 at the time, and Gordon was 18. So Gordon kind of grew up with these two older guys. These were like his like his older brothers almost in a sense. Brian was a few years older than him, but Victor was a lot older with him. They got Blaze later on, and then John Sparrow joined him. Guy Hoffman also played with him for a little while. Victor decided to retire about 2013 because again he's a good Gordon is basically my age or a little bit older, so Victor's ready to retire, and they've made plenty of money, so they get this Pretenders gig and then they start getting more jobs because they did the Pretenders gig. So they go and y- someone sees them uh, and says, "Go ahead and let's record an album." And they did it with a in a recording studio that was being shut down at the time. So there parts of the recording studio would be there one night when they would show up, and then they'd be missing because they were selling pieces of it off. They were able to sell it to Slash Records, but Slash Records wouldn't promote it, so they had to go out and promote it themselves. The thing is, this song became such a bellwether for Gen X, particularly Gen X indie kids. Um, or this, not this song, this album. The album includes, and it's the self-titled album, Violent Femmes. It's got, of course, Please Do Not Go, which we're going to talk about, which again kind of blends all the sounds that we're working on. Blister in the Sun, Kiss Off, Added Up, and Gone Daddy Gone. Um, it is their biggest selling album. It was eventually certified platinum by the RIAA. It was recorded in in July of 1982, again in that studio that was being sold off piece by piece. And the producer was actually the janitor. He just kind of filled in as their producer and let them record it. Um, it was released by Slash Records on vinyl and on cassette in April of 1983, and then CD subsequently in 1987. The CD did have two extra tracks, Ugly and Gimme the Car, which ended up being on their second album, Hallowed Ground. Um, and then after Hallowed Ground, which was released in 1984, they released The Blind Leading the Naked, which was released in 1986. And then Three, which was released in 1989, even though it was their fourth album. And then Why Do Birds Sing in 1991. Why Do Birds Sing was played on pop radio. But the songs off of The Violent Femmes, the first album, played on independent radio, and they played the whole damn thing. As a matter of fact, Added Up has, there's some curse words in there. And if you listened late enough at night on college radio or independent radio, sometimes they didn't bleep them all out. Um, but this one was a bellwether for Gen X. And what's weird is it would be really popular in the early 80s, and then older brothers and sisters would give it to their younger brothers and sisters because, again, it had curse words in it, so it's a teenage thing. And then they would graduate out to different kinds of music and give it to their younger brothers and sisters or younger cousins. So this album eventually became triple platinum, but it took them 10 years to do it. What do you think about Please Do Not Go by the Violent Femmes?
What's the Violent Femme song I'm going to know?
Add it up. Or Blister in the Sun.
In the Sun. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking because I don't think I know Added Up.
Why
Um,
can't I get it? Just one kiss. Why can't I get it? Just one kiss. Believe me. You remember that one? This is the one that
yeah,
has
no,
fuck in it.
doesn't help me like them anymore. Um, don't like this song either. It's a lot like the last one to me. I don't like that style of singing. I know I'm not a big Violent Femmes fan, but this one is just a nope. I'll listen to Blister in the Sun. I like that one. Um, but this one, no,
Tell your
we're two for
mama so.
two on ones that won't hit my playlist if you were to threaten to pee all over me.
I would never pee all over you. I mean, unless you'd stepped on a jellyfish.
So thanks for joining us today. That's the end of our episode. No, yeah, no, not a just not a Violent Femmes fan. I'm really not.
This I can't stress enough how well again, and I'm mostly dealing with the indie kids, how big this album was with the indie kids, and it kept pop. It was like The Cure. It kept popping up every couple of years. People would discover it.
See, and I like The Cure. I'm not a Violent Femmes fan.
Whereas The Cure, it was just, three or four albums. It was this one album that kept popping up. So it's eventually it goes platinum, even though it started out really small. It took them forever to get there. Um, the next song in our list is Say I by Dexter and the Moonrocks. We've talked about Dexter and the Moonrocks before. They're an American rock band from Abilene, Texas. They were formed in 2021. They combine elements of country and rock. They have described their genre as Western space grunge, which they chose as the name of their 2024 EP after. The band gained traction after a clip of their song Couch went viral on TikTok. So far, they've released four releases. I'm not sure which is an EP. The Western Space Grunge is an EP. Dexter and the Moonrocks, I believe, is a full album. Happy to Be Here is an EP, and Donkey Flats is a full album. There's something about this band. This is a quote. There's something about the band that sounds like they've lived every note they play, like the dirt under their fingernails and the ache in their lungs found their way into the mix. Dexter and the Moonrocks are that kind of band. On their new EP, Happy to Be Here, this was released in 2025, the Abilene-based quartet proves they're not just chasing a dream, but dragging it through the dust and setting it on fire. Following the smoky success of Western Space Grunge and the surprise grip of Sad in California, Happy to Be Here finds the band a little sharper, a little louder, and a little surer of what they are. It's a six songs that feel like a bar fight and late night drives. Heavy guitars, heavier emotions, and just enough melodic charm to keep you coming back. Um, I like all of the Dexter and the Moonrock stuff. I know it's not everybody's bag, but I kind of like their sound. It's very Dexter and the Moonrocks. Nobody else sounds like this, but they kind of take some of the sounds that were coming out of Seattle, some of the sounds that were coming out of Austin, some of the sounds that were coming out of the Southeast Texas, and kind of blend them together. Um, Also, you get some of that Silver Light or Silver Lake sound, which we talked about in I believe, an exclusive episode. Um,
Mm,
there's
yes.
there's kind of a drony hauntingness about that particular sound. They have that as well. So they kind of take a bunch of stuff. In When we first started talking about these guys, they were still working day jobs. They have since quit their day jobs and they tour now as professional musicians, and good on them. They do a lot of work on the road too. I love these guys. What did you think about Say I by Dexter and the Moonrocks?
I think it's so funny, and I almost interrupted you. You said, you were sitting there going, they're really not like anybody. I disagree with that. I do remember us talking about Dexter and the Moonrocks before. They're very 90s. Their
Yeah,
sound is very 90s. So,
yes, there
so
was a
I,
90s tint.
yeah, I wouldn't say they don't sound like anybody. They do. They sound like that genre. They sound like the grunge genre. When you get into there. Um, I'm not talking like a Pearl Jam, and I know there's people out there that will absolutely hate me for this. I do not like Pearl Jam. Um,
I don't think
I,
Pearl Jam was ever as good as Mother Love Bone.
well, and I think all their songs sound the same, and I mean you get
Harder, 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 harder.
it's worthless. It's meaningless. And yes, I do know listeners out there are going to hate me for saying that. I just never liked Pearl Jam. Um, but Dexter and the Moonrocks, this song particularly would easily fit into that 90s genre of music. I thought this was really cool. I like this song a lot.
Say I, yeah, Say I
Yeah,
is a good song. Yeah,
yeah.
it's a good tune. I like Dexter's and the Moon Rocks. We got turned on to this by uh, uh, Ethan, one of our we're funkles to a bunch of different little kids because of
Hmm.
the way we all kind of grew up. He turned me on to
We're
these
no,
guys.
no, 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 no. We're funkles to a bunch of adults that
Yeah.
were once little kids and
Yes.
and are now grown and have
They're,
children of their own, or they're well
yes.
on their path into
We
life. And
yes, and the children of their own. We are also funkles too,
right.
which is weird. But
Yeah,
I grew up with a bunch of funkles.
matter of fact, I'll throw this in here real quick. So, a good friend of ours, I don't know if she listens to the show or not. You remember coworker.
Yeah,
I won't give her name out on the air because she might not want it on there. But
we call her coworker anyway.
yeah, yeah, we did. That was her name on a blog I had years ago. Promises Ball of Hate. But anyway, um, there was a year that a bunch of us went to Scarborough Fair, and her two little daughters wore out, and there were two of us that ended up carrying them on our shoulders the rest of the day.
Hmm.
Little girls that we were able to carry on our shoulders for an entire day. Um, one of those two girls is now a doctor, you know, and it just floored me because I was talking with coworker just a week or so ago, over Messenger, and yeah, she was talking about her girls and what they were doing, and the fact that one of them is a doctor now, and I'm like, holy shit. Yeah, I mean, it's very similar to the fact Star Wars 50th anniversary is next year. You
Yeah.
know, all this shit just makes me feel old. But anyway, so yeah, that all those little kids are no longer little kids.
Yes.
You know, one of our listeners who has actually written an article about us. We
What?
knew Lauren.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
She
We
wrote
knew
an
her when
article
she
about
was a
us.
baby.
Yes, we knew her when she was a baby. There was a point in history that Lauren thought I was Santa Claus
Uh-huh.
because I went over to our friend's house. She was in tears, and I was like, "What's going?" I mean, I just came from work, and I'm like, "What's going on? What's going on?" And she was in tears because she wanted a dollhouse for her birthday for Christmas, and she was telling me she wasn't going to get it. Well, in reality, her parents had bought the dollhouse that she wanted. They
Mhm.
just weren't telling her if she was getting it, and she wanted to know. So she went on this whole path of saying she wasn't going to get it, and I was like, okay, what do I need to do to get this child a dollhouse? I will get this child a dollhouse. I'm going to make sure this child gets a dollhouse. What do we need? What do we need? Lauren, as a baby, correlated that with because she told me that, and I said that she would get it, that I was Santa Claus.
Oh, that's
She
right.
thought she thought I was Santa Claus for a long time.
Yep. You're Santa Claus.
So anyway, continue. Next
The
next song. Continue on.
next song is It's All Right by the Del Fuegos. The Del Fuegos are another one of those bands that are a little bit older that don't always get mentioned, you know? The Del Fuegos are an American 1980s garage style rock band. Formed in 1980, the Boston based band gained success in 1986 with their songs Don't Run Wild and I Still Want You, and appeared in a widely seen television commercial for Miller Beer. The band's fans included Tom Petty, who appeared on one of the band's songs and featured them as an opening act on his tour. The Del Fuegos are named after the island of Tierra del Fuego. Um, Boston, Mass is the second album by the Del Fuegos. It was released in 1985. Its release coincided with the band's participation in the Miller Brewing Company's Made the American Way. And my notes disappeared there for a second. What happened? I
Well,
hate it when
here,
that
here,
happens.
let me help with that. The Del Fuegos. So I'll make this one easy for you. This band took me right back to the 80s.
Yeah, this
Uh,
is definitely it's an 80s garage band.
so much better than the first two songs. These last two songs. The is it Del Fuegos or Del Fugues?
Del Fuegos.
Del Fuegos.
Because
I
it's
just
like Tierra del Fuego.
I just spelled it wrong on here. The song itself is really cool, especially if you like an 80s sound. And
Hmm.
yeah, 80s garage band that fit perfectly for
Yeah.
them on this. This was a really good song. I liked this one a lot. I was so glad to get past the first two, and then we were into these next two. So great pick.
Yeah, the Del
Great pick.
Fuegos, they're evocative of the Bodines and later replacements and stuff like that. It's a very 1980s sound, but it's a
Hmm.
1980s garage sound,
Yeah,
which ended up influencing a lot of the music in the 90s. So if you like that stuff, you should check these guys out.
yeah,
I like that whole Boston Mass album, but It's All Right is a great tune.
yeah. Agreed.
Um,
Did you find your notes?
yes.
Okay. Go on to the next one. We got
All
that one.
right. The next one is Carmilla by Blood Sugar, spelled Bldsugr. This is kind of a gothy one. Carmilla gave me vibes of the undertones with those teenage kicks. Not sure why, but I like the drum kicks, and I thought it had more commercial melody to your earlier EP. A bit more like Radio 1 even. Is this a slight shift of gears? Strange guitar break, late track 2. This was a quote. um, Blood Sugar, Jake Brown is on drums. Jake has only known music playing from before the age of 11. He's played in bands for 10 for years. Joining Blood Sugar in February of 2025. He was the catalyst that turned them to 100. The others describe him as funny, lovable, and mad. He wrote and played the drum part on Carmilla. Lee Evans, guitars and bass. Blood Sugars have crafted a unique sound using pedal and specific set of amps and guitars. Lee has found a unique sound that drives the music, and Blood Sugar took inspiration from bands such as Soft Play and Royal Blood to find a unique sound that fills the room. Lee is new to music and the grand scheme of things, only picking up guitar in 2019. So these guys are pretty new. Lolly Hayes on vocals. Lolly has always had a spark for the stage, from dance to theater to music. She loves the art of performing and is inspired by a wide range of artists from Janis Joplin to Stevie Nicks, but also everything she loves rock and the theatrics, and that bleeds so deeply into Blood Sugar. Um, they've recently gone semi-viral on TikTok with a track, "The Ant Burns Under the Magnifying Glass," boasting over 250,000 views. Um, Carmilla is on their latest EP release. Uh, and it was released on October 15th of 2025. It's fairly new. But this is a new and upcoming band. I got most of the stuff from their website. What do you think about Carmilla by Blood Sugar?
So it was funny you said this was kind of goth. My very first note was, you snuck a goth song in on me. Uh, love it, love it because apparently I'm goth. Yeah, a genre I was not familiar with, a genre that I didn't know I liked. As soon as I heard this and started watching, I mean, it was very apparent even before the word kicked in at the very beginning of the video. I went, "Hello, we've got a goth song."
Hmm. Yeah.
So I liked it a lot. This was a very good song. I like this.
Indie is all get out too. I mean, like I said, there's not a lot of information. I had to get most of that off of their website, so it's a it's very uh, promotional, the notes I have, but that's what
Hmm.
I got off of them. Yeah, they're kind of a new deal. Like one of them's only been playing since 2019, so but they got this drummer who had been kind of in the scene and around. It kind of set them off. Really cool sound. The next song is Ghost in a Bikini by the Judies. Again, this is another one of those indie bands that was huge in a couple of places and nowhere else. North
Sorry,
Texas happened to be one of the places they were huge in.
I'm sorry. Hold please. This has no relation to anything we're talking about, but it caught my eye, and I had to bring it in. So one of the things I do like to do is I've talked about this, adding these songs into my playlist if I like them. And I was actually going in to put that last one in, and the first thing I saw is there's an upcoming album, Asia, live in England. Love Asia, absolutely love
Okay.
Asia. That's going to be an album I'm going to get. But what struck me on this is I wanted to see what tracks they were doing for this album.
Hmm.
The bonus track on this album is Video Killed the Radio Star.
By the Buggles?
Apparently,
Well,
I
I
don't know.
get that. They were
It's
huge until video came out and people realized they look like car salesmen,
Yeah, yeah.
just like Toto.
I'm so sorry. I did not mean to derail you with that. I just had to bring that up because I think that's hysterical. The video killed the radio star is about to be on an Asia album. Anyway, continue.
Ghost in a Bikini is by the Judies. The Judies are from Pearland, Texas. They're they're a punk and new wave act that flourished in the late 70s through the early 80s. The band was founded by four Pearland High School students, Sam Hughes Rosh on guitar vocals, David B. Bean, songwriter, vocals, guitar, keyboards, uh, Dane Sezak, um, drums, vocals, and Jeff Walton, bass and vocals. They graduated respectively, except for Jeff graduated in 81. The rest of them graduated in 1980. That's and they were already gigging by then. They were coming up here by then. Roush, while a senior in high school, died on January 9th, 1980, from a one-car accident near his home while driving home from school band practice. 28 days earlier, the Judies had recorded its debut single, Teenage Hang-Ups. Sam's father, an educator in the Houston Public Schools, was a former musician in the Air Force Band at Connally Air Force Base in Waco, Texas. After Rouse's death, the Judies continued as a trio. It kind of pushed them forward. Um, the Judies were really into humor as part of their music. So their stuff is very humorous, especially after, such a tragic death that occurred. They decided to make everything happy. So that's what they did. Um, they first disbanded in 1983, and they recorded solo albums, or Bean just recorded a solo album. And Bean and Walton continued to make music professionally. They kind of worked together as Bean. They were still doing basically Judy's stuff, but their Judy's career ended by like 1983. So this is all really early 80s stuff. Um, this is off the Moo album, which was really big in local indie scenes. Rumor has it that the Moo album was originally titled Killer Pussy, but I can't, I can't, that has been a rumor for decades in this and the Houston indie scene. Because again, they played a lot up here, but they didn't really play in Austin, which is weird. The band opened for the B-52s and the Talking Heads. And another little point of fact, uh, they did play in Austin a little bit in 1981. REM opened for them in 1981 at Club Foot in Austin. Um, and they saw them as, the big, but it's one of those things that the Judy split up because I think one of them decided he wanted to go to college. Because again, they graduated in 80, 81. Um, they sold a bunch of albums locally, but they weren't really that big um, around the country. So they decided to get regular jobs. And that's what they did. Um, in the last decade or so, they have re-released a lot of their stuff on vinyl and cassette and CD, because honestly, their music is really fun and enjoyable, and it's quirky, like Ghost in a Bikini. What did you think about? It's very surf rock too. What did you think about Ghost in the Bikini?
Um, I really liked it until the singer started up because that's one of those whiner singers that I don't appreciate that kind of singing style. The music was okay itself, but this is one of those that if you could separate the music from the singer, I would have liked it a whole lot more. It was obvious that it was going to be something fun. I mean, from the
Yeah,
very beginning, from the very open, but
yeah.
the singer ruined it for me.
It's they're a very enjoyable band. I get you know what I mean, or a joyous band. I think because of that tragedy that happened to them pretty early on in their career, they just wanted to make fun. They used to do one called Watching My TV, and and Homeboy would bring up a very small black and white portable television, and the opening he'd just play static into the microphone, and then they go to watching my into the song watching my TV, but it always opened with that. And instead of recording it and just playing the sound, he would bring the portable TV up and run the speaker into the microphone. The next song is uh, Decay by Saints of Saturn. Saints of Saturn is a rock and roll powerhouse hailing from the Sunshine State of Florida. Matching their home state's heat with their wall-shaking sound of blazing energy, their influences lie in the legendary swagger of the 1970s and the grit of the 1990s, but their powerful riffs and biting lyrics are a new taste of rock and roll that commands attention from every generation. The band is not a rehash of any one sound or era, but a fiery derivative of every key element of their genre. Larger than life personalities, broad range musicianship, and devilishly catchy sounds. Again, some of this stuff is taken from their website. So the band first formed as a trio, the production of local music schools uniting high school classmates, Corey Bernardi on drums, Chris Erickson on bass, and Nick Wilson on lead vocals and guitars. Together, they soared to new heights, touring across the Southeast and opening for legends like Leonard Skinner and a new favorite like Tyler Bryant and Shakedown. Um, Saints of Saturn has recorded a five-song EP with prolific producer David Bendeth of Paramore and The Warning Brings Me the Horizon. Or he produced that. Split between Peter Frampton's Nashville studio in New Jersey. A full album will be on the horizon in the near future. But for the Saints of Saturn, the sky is the limit. So they basically just released an EP which has Decay on it. They don't have a full video yet. I wanted to add some clips, but I wanted to get the sound more than anything on this one so you could hear it. These guys are trying to do, fuck, I don't even know, metal, but they also kind of want to sound like Dexter and the Moon Rocks, that kind of sound. Um, and they are literally touring the Southeast area, the Georgia, North South Carolina, Alabama, into East Texas and Florida, um, in the back of an old conversion van. The few videos that clips that they've got is them singing out of the back of the van, and it is covered with shag carpet. Um, I'm kind of worried that the thing's going to break down on them, but apparently they're making it from town to town just fine. So, but these guys are, well, I wouldn't want to say kids because they're making music, but they're children, running around trying to make it as a band. What did you think about Decay by Saints of Saturn?
Um, so I have to say that I'm surprised this song was in your list.
Hmm.
You said you couldn't really describe their sound. It's funny because you did the same thing with Dexter and the Moonrocks that I can do here. Um, Saints of Saturn is very hairband.
Yeah,
They're very Motley Crue. They're very Steel Dragon. Um,
Steel Dragon.
I love this song. Absolutely love this song. Went right into my playlist immediately. This is a song I could hear over and over and over again. It's hairband. To me,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
that's
listen to more of these guys. I can tell you
yeah.
that for sure. I'm
Saints of
gonna
Saturn.
listen to
Well,
more.
okay. Right now they only have a five-song EP, so you could probably pick
That's
up the whole
fine.
thing.
Yeah. But great song. Great song. Shocked it was in your playlist. Did not expect one like this. This is one immediately playlist, and I'm gonna listen to more of them.
Well, I think I was looking for some music on TikTok because I do these videos every day for our show, and
Hmm.
it's a bunch of basically just a peek inside my brain, all the things that are pinging off of it, or your brain. Um, so I'm always looking for fresh music because I don't want to repeat it too much. Now I might use the same song over, a 6 month period of time, but I don't want them, within a couple of weeks of each other. So I'm usually
Right.
looking for new stuff. This is one of those ones that I hit. I was like, oh my God, these guys are fucking great. Oh my God, these guys are fucking young.
Crap, there's a
Um,
band that I have been seeing all over TikTok, and I've been meaning to tell you. A new band, the name Gun. Let's see if I can find them real quick. No, 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 no. I'd want to find them because Gunshine. That's it. Gunshine.
Gunshine.
Put them on your list.
Okay,
Yep.
Gunshine. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll check them out.
Listen to them and we can put them on another one of these lists. Gunshine. I've
Yeah,
heard them multiple times on Facebook. I really like them.
nice. Gunshine. Got it.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue.
Um, the next song is by the Pixies. Where is my mind? We've talked about the Pixies a lot, but we haven't actually gone into any depth on them. They're an American alternative rock band formed in Boston, Massachusetts in 1986. The original lineup consisted of Black Francis, also known as Charles, um, Joey Santiago on lead guitars, Black Francis's vocals, rhythm, and guitar. He's also known as Frank Black. Joey Santiago on lead guitar, Kim Deal on bass and vocals, and Dave Levering on the drums. The Pixies are associated with the 1990s alternative rock boom and draw on elements including punk rock and surf rock. Their music is known for its dynamic, loud, quiet, loud shifts and song structures. Francis is a primary songwriter. His often surreal lyrics cover offbeat subjects such as extraterrestrials, incest, and biblical violence. The Pixies' debut release was the mini LP Come On Pilgrim, followed by the album Surfer Rosa, Doolittle, Bossa Nova, Trompe la Monde. They disbanded in 1993. The Pixies found only modest success in the US, but were more successful in the United Kingdom. They were on 4AD Records in the United Kingdom. Um, and then they had like a distribution deal here in the States. So they were actually bigger in England than here. However, they were huge in the underground music scene. And Nirvana, Radiohead, Modest Mouse, The Smashing Pumpkins, and Weezer all tried to cover the Pixies a little bit. Not like do a cover song, but kind of try to sound like they sounded because they were such a huge influence. Matter of fact, Smells Like Teen Spirit is Nirvana trying to make a Pixies like song. That's what that is. Um, Surfer Rosa is their debut studio album, and it was released in March of 1988 on the British label 4AD. It was produced by Steve Albini. Surfer Rosa contains many of the elements of Pixies' earlier output, including Spanish lyrics and references to Puerto Rico. It included reference to mutilation and voyeurism alongside experimental recording techniques and distinctive drum sounds. 4AD is an independent label. Distribution in the United States was handled by British label Rough Trade Records. Um, Only one single was released, a recorded version of Gigantic, and it reached number 93 on the UK singles charts. It was later released by Elektra Records in 1992, or 1992, yeah. It was eventually certified gold. It has been cited by inspiration for a lot of bands later on. What do you think about Where Is My Mind by the Pixies?
All right. First and foremost, I don't like the Pixies. I just don't. I don't. I don't. I don't like the Pixies. Let me say it again. I do not fucking like the Pixies. However, I love this song. And I don't know why this is the one I love out of other shit that they've done. And maybe it's because of Fight Club,
Mhm.
because I love the movie Fight Club. Absolutely love the movie Fight Club. I think it's brilliant. And this is the end song for that movie. This is a really really good song. Um, I could listen to this one again, again and again. I wouldn't put this one in my playlist. I don't like it that much, but I really do like this song. It's just not very indicative to the rest of their music to me, and maybe that's why I like this one better than their other stuff.
Um, yeah, it's a little different from some of their other stuff. If you listen to some of the stuff from Doolittle, Doolittle sounds a lot like Where Is My Mind, which was their big indie hit. Like the one that came after that, Bossa Nova, was kind of big, and the one that came before it, Surfer Rosa, was big. Doolittle was the one that everybody remembers. That's the one that every indie kid had. They had a copy of Doolittle and they had a copy of the Violent Femmes record. If they didn't have anything else, they had those two albums. Um, I like Surfer Rosa because it's a little more edgy. Um, but yeah, this is one of those songs. It's significant in underground music because a lot of other stuff wouldn't have happened without this band because they inspired a whole bunch of other people. But at the same time, I can say they are kind of noisy. Sometimes they're too noisy. They could have cut back some of that noise, and that's what people liked about this song better. There's less noise. There's more of that surf rock sound, which is, you know, Joey Santiago playing his heart out. The next song is Not What Professionals Do by Katumu. Katumu is a Sierra Leonean German American girlie born in New York City who makes electrified alternative folk music. She just graduated from the university and live in LA, and she lives in LA, where she dreams of buying a tandem bike and riding down Sunset Boulevard. Alongside the guitar, she plays tennis, and she produces and takes care of two nameless guinea pigs. She speaks Spanish and Portuguese and she's inspired by artists like Tyler Childers, Bon Iver, Pinegrove, and Dora Jar. Um, the album Departure Time is about leaving home, comfort, reality, and the beaten path and finding meaning in life on her own terms. She graduated from Yale in May and moved to LA with two suitcases and this unbending need to figure out what exactly she wanted from life. This is again, a lot of this is taken from her website. You can hear a lot of different eras in this music. She said she grew up listening to a lot of Steely Dan, Van Morrison, Ed Sheeran, and Sierra Leonean music, which had a wicked electric guitar. So, like her dad is, I think her no, her mom is Sierra Leonean, and her dad is German, but she grew up in New York City. So she is the son of two immigrants. And she got a lot of that weird, a lot of that weird German techno music and a lot of this Sierra Leonean um, guitar music, which is electrified, but it's both Spanish and African at the same time. So it's kind of all over the place. And she blends that in with the sound of hers, and it's just this really cool folk song. What do you think about Not What Professionals Do by Katumu?
So this was a pretty song. It really was. It's not one that I particularly like or would listen to again and again, but it is a good song. I see the quality in this song, and there was a lot of heart in this song. It's very pretty. It's a very
Mhm.
very pretty song. So it's a good pick. It's a good pick. Just not one that I could listen to over and over again.
I kind of like this one. I was like, oh, this is kind of refreshing, like a
Yeah,
palate cleanser.
yeah, I could see that a little bit. Yeah.
The next song is an indie song, but it's gotten pretty big because of uh, the lead singer of the band, uh, Joseph David Carey, also known by his music stage name Joe with a D, so it's DJO.
The
He's an
Joe, the
American,
Joe,
yeah, Joe.
the
Uh,
Joe.
DeJoe. He's an American actor, singer, musician, and songwriter. He rose to international prominence for his role as Steve Harrington in the sci-fi series Stranger Things.
What?
Yeah, this is Steve Harrington.
Are you kidding? That's why I recognized him in the video because I kept looking
Yeah,
um at the little TikTok video where it's just his face, and I'm like, who does that look like?
yeah, it's Steve
Thank you.
Harrington.
Thank
It's
you.
Joe Carey.
Okay.
Um, he also starred in films such as Spree, Free Guy, and the fifth season of the crime drama series Fargo. As a musician, Kiri was founding member of the psychedelic rock band Post Animal, which he left in 2018 due to acting commitments. Following the departure, he took on the stage name Joe, pronounced Joe, uh, Joe,
Did
for his
you?
solo music projects and released the album 2020 and 2019, Decide in 2022, The Crux in 2025, and The Crux Deluxe in 2025. Decide features Into the Beginning, which is the song we're talking about, which became a sleeper hit and his first Billboard Hot 100 entry after it went viral on TikTok in 2024. So the song had actually been around for a couple of years. He recorded it. Um, he recorded it while he was doing Stranger. I've heard an interview with him. He recorded it while he was doing Stranger Things. He was sitting in a trailer and he had his little recording stuff. And when he went to go put in the name of the band while he was recording the stuff, he was like, "What should I call this?" You know what? That's when he did Joe, DJO. It's called Joe. Originally, it was the song title, and then he started doing it, and he goes back to Chicago and he starts playing it. Well, in the interim, his character blows up in Stranger Things. Stranger Things becomes a phenomenon. So people start going, Steve Harrington wrote a song. So they started playing it in TikTok a couple of years later after he released it. But he's still an indie guy. He's still doing all of his indie stuff. A lot of people said they wanted to hear this song in Stranger Things, but I think that was wrong because Stranger Things is a love letter to nerds in the 80s. And this is not a 1980s song. It's got some elements of it, but that's not what this is. Um, It was first made available by AWAL on September 16th, 2022 as a six-track from his second studio album, Decide. The song began to gain popularity on TikTok in 2024. As a result, it was issued as a single on March 1st, 2024, so 2 years after it was released, or a year and a half. The song received a second wave of popularity in January 2026 following the series finale of Stranger Things, in which Joe stars as the character Steve Harrington. It tops the charts in the Czech Republic, Greece, Indonesia, Italy, Latvia, Lithuania, Slovakia, Sweden, and the United Kingdom, and peaked within the top 10 in over 25 of the countries, including Australia, Belgium, Canada, Germany, Ireland, New Zealand, and here in the US. The name of the song is End of the Beginning. It talks about him having to leave Chicago because that's where his indie band was, which I should really play some of their stuff. They were pretty fucking good. Um, eh, Sorry, I've got too many things running through my brain right now. Post Animal. Post Animal's pretty good. But he did sing a whole lot. He's singing on this one. He's been touring with this a lot all around the world, and it's gotten pretty big. Um, Following the conclusion of Stranger Things, the song re-entered the top 10, topping the charts during the week dated January 17th, 2024. Now, we have used this song several times in our YouTube, or not YouTube, our TikToks and things like that, just because I like the song anyway. It's got a real cool feel. But the idea of the song was he had to go out to LA to do this work, and then they're I think they're filming Stranger Things in actually Georgia, even though it's supposed to take place in Indiana. So he's having to move back and forth, but what he really misses is being in Chicago, and that's what this song is about. Is about being a musician in the indie scene in Chicago, hanging out with Steve Albini and shit like that. Um, and it's a real uplifting song. What do you think about End of Beginning by Joe or
Um,
Joe?
so telling me it's the actor that was Steve Harrington made this song make a lot more sense to me now.
Uh-huh.
The fact that you said it was kind of 80s, but not really,
Uh-huh.
I'm going to tell you you're wrong on that because my exact notes were, and this was before I knew who it was.
Uh-huh.
I said, this song time traveled from the 1980s and brought us a great song that was never released. It's great. The song is phenomenal. And the fact that it's from the kid from Stranger Things makes so much sense now because yes, this song could have been in the soundtrack for Stranger Things. It absolutely. You talk about a love letter for the 80s. This song is also one of those.
See, to
It's
me
an
it sounds a
80s
little
song.
newer than that. But I mean,
Nah.
either way, it's a great
Oh,
fucking song.
well, yeah, it sounds newer because it is newer and I mean it has better sound technology than then. But this song 100% absolutely belonged in the 80s. This could have been a smash hit in the 80s.
Yeah.
Smash
And
hit.
what's really great is it was recorded basically on the set of Stranger Things. That's when he
That's
recorded it.
yeah, that's really really cool. Great song. Great
Thank
song.
you.
Love it. Love the fact that he did it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, that's it for the indie songs you need to have in your playlist. Again, I'll do some more of these. I think my next list is songs that were important in college radio, not necessarily number ones, but that kind of helped the sound. Just because I was like, we need to talk about this a little bit, particularly in the 80s. Um, and I just they were songs that had an impact on how that stuff played out.
Hmm.
So it's more a historical document than, just, hey, listen to these songs. They're cool.
Awesome.
But I will come back and do another one of these indie.
Yeah. Overall, not a bad list at all. There were some in there I didn't like. Um, Saints of Saturn, bam, right in the playlist. Carmilla, bam, right into the playlist. And this last one too, is phenomenal. Loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it. Loved it. Loved it. Cool. I thank you for bringing us that list. Hopefully everybody goes out and checks it out. With that, I will step over to the murdery side of the house.
Murder.
For today, I got my information off Wikipedia, Death Penalty Information Center, Yale Daily News, News Times AP, Connecticut Public Radio, and the Taipei Times. And this is the story of Michael Ross.
Michael Ross.
So once again, we're back on the A to Z series on serial killers across America. We crossed through the seas with Colorado last and straight into the S with Florida, which means I'm an idiot and skipped two states. Yes, we missed two. Technically, we already covered Delaware. That was episode 101 with Stephen
Oh,
Bryan Pennell,
Connecticut.
Connecticut. Stephen Bryan Pennell was Delaware. And honestly, since Delaware is the smallest state, statistically speaking, he's kind of their guy. So Delaware, you win this round. We've covered Delaware already. Um, if you want your Delaware murdery, pause now, go listen to episode 101 and come back. And you're back. Meanwhile, we're going to backtrack to Connecticut, which I also skipped because apparently I'm an idiot and can't spell. Good thing I'm a writer.
Yeah.
So
Well, they have spell check now.
so today we're talking about Michael Ross, who was also labeled the roadside strangler. Um, so before we get into what Michael Ross did, we need to talk about who he appeared to be because he was not a stereotypical serial killer. He was born in 1959, grew up in Connecticut. He was the oldest of four children. His home life was very dysfunctional. His mother abandoned the family at least once. She was institutionalized and she beat all four of her children, reportedly. Some family and friends suggested he was also molested by his teenage uncle, who committed suicide when Ross was just 6 years old. At age 12, he molested two girls himself. And in response to his sexual behavior and curiosity, his father beat him as punishment. His mother would determine when Ross was punished, and his father would enforce the actual punishment. So maybe this is the key that turned him, because we've talked about all this kind of stuff. Maybe that's the key. But if you go back, most people described him as intelligent, quiet, and reserved, which is weird. He graduated from Cornell University in May of 81 with a degree in economics. And Cornell, that's not a guy that's just scraping by.
No.
That's not someone society has written off. That's
Yeah.
a disciplined, high function, academically successful young man.
Yeah.
And that's where this becomes very uncomfortable because when we think about serial killer, we tend to imagine visible instability. We've seen this in many serial killers. There's so many things. You see rage, you see social collapse. There's something you can point to and go, that's where it went wrong. And I don't know that we necessarily have it in here. Maybe the abuse, but he seemed to be a very well-adjusted young man after this.
Well, yeah, but the adjustment might have been the mask.
It could have been. It absolutely could have been.
You know,
Um,
like Batman.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Batman is the person, Bruce Wayne is the mask.
right. Um, which is funny because Superman is the person, Clark Kent is the mask.
Yes, exactly.
Um,
Same thing.
yes. But Ross, he blended. He had jobs. He interacted normally. He wasn't constantly in trouble with the law, and he wasn't spiraling, at least not publicly. He was living what looked to be an ordinary life, and that's the part that really stops me because if someone is obviously unraveling, we at least feel, hey, there were warning signs. We talked about this in multiple of the serial killers I've just covered. But when someone is composed, educated, and outwardly calm, we lose that illusion of safety. BTK is one of those that you lost that illusion of safety. The Green River Killer was another one. And Michael Ross is one that fits into that category because he was not chaos walking into a room. He was very quiet. And that kind of quiet that leads to what this is can be absolutely terrifying. Um, so now we kind of shift to from who he appeared to be to what he was actually doing. He actually began killing in 1981 when he was in his early 20s, still in college. His victims were young women. Many of them were teenage or college aged. They were walking alone, mostly, hitchhiking, or simply vulnerable in situations along rural roads in eastern Connecticut. Um, and this matters because he wasn't a big city predator hiding in alleyways. This is quiet New England, two-lane highways, tree lines, long stretches of roads where help isn't exactly around the corner. He used the
Yeah, even
simple,
in the city parts, they're tucked. It's like Houston, they're tucked inside a
yeah,
forest.
yeah,
Like there's
yeah, yeah,
a chain of forests and there's a city behind it, but you can't see it because there's a little strip of forest there.
right. And he used the simplest tool of all, a car. He would offer people rides. He would gain their trust. He'd present himself as normal. He was safe. He was educated. He was non-threatening. But once he had control of the environment, once they were inside his vehicle and away from visibility, he would drive them to secluded areas, assault them, and strangle them.
Like
Yes.
Bundy.
Yes.
He used the mask of upper middle class success.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
when you talk about strangulation, understand that's intimate. It's close. It's
Yeah.
controlled. It requires sustained physical dominance.
Yeah.
Between
And a
81
lot
and
of
8,
strength too.
yes. Oh,
You don't
absolutely.
realize how hard it is just, well, I mean, not that I know how to strangle somebody, but I've researched it and there's a certain amount of pressure constantly that you have to put
Well,
on that.
and not only that, when you're strangling someone, they are literally fighting for their life at that
Yeah.
point. It's not like you just stabbed them and they're now weakened. This is somebody fighting for their life, and people who are fighting for their life often will get stronger.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
adrenaline shot. So,
yes.
is he a
So,
big guy?
I don't no, I don't think he was a big guy.
Huh.
I don't remember on that. Um, so between 81 and 84, he murdered 8 young women.
Holy
Eight,
shit.
yes, in 3 years. During that entire time, he maintained the appearance of being a functional adult. He wasn't fueled by panic. He had a pattern. He hunted along roadways and he returned to familiar areas and he selected victims who were accessible but isolated. And that is predatory behavior and not explosive rage. Here's something that adds another layer to that. In the early 80s, hitchhiking was relatively common still.
Hmm.
Trust culture had not yet shifted. There wasn't the same pervasive fear that we carry now, which means in the 80s, the environment worked in his favor. And that's something to think about in these cases. Serial killers don't just exist in isolation. They exploit the norms of their time. We've talked about this time and time again. Michael Ross didn't force himself into locked homes. He waited for opportunity on the side of the road, and that's where he found it. Now we kind of get to where this it makes this case different because he did something not every serial killer does. He admitted he knew he was dangerous. After his arrest, he spoke very openly about what he described as violent sexual fantasies that began when he was young. He said he felt urges that escalated over time and fantasies that became more intrusive, more specific, and more compulsive. And then comes to the part that's really, really hard to sit with. He said he believed he would kill again, not might, would. And that's not someone
If
who's
you let me out, I will kill again.
yeah, that's not
Holy
someone who's
shit.
claiming innocence.
No.
That's not someone deflecting blame. That's someone describing a loss of internal control. Um, and whether you interpret that as true compulsion, rationalization, or post-arrest self-analysis, that's all up for debate. Ross presented himself as someone who understood his pathology. He reportedly felt shame and he reportedly feared his own thoughts, yet he acted on them repeatedly. And so that begs the question, was he unable to stop or unwilling to stop? Because that line matters a lot.
Hmm.
He was intelligent. He was highly intelligent. Again, Cornell educated. He was capable of planning, capable of maintaining employment, and he was capable of blending into society, which tells us something very critical. He was not psychotic in the traditional sense. He was not detached from reality. He knew what he was doing was wrong. He knew it was criminal. He knew it was monstrous, and he did it anyway. Um, that doesn't point to madness. It points more to predatory compulsion layered in self-awareness, which is a very unusual one and really kind of what makes this one almost more disturbing because when someone knows exactly what they are and continues, that's not confusion, that is surrender to impulse. He later waived his own appeals and pushed for his own execution. And some people interpreted that as remorse, and some said it was maybe depression, but others really said that was his one final act of control. Um, that psychological ambiguity is what makes this case linger on and on. And again, Michael Ross was not chaotic. He was deliberate, and inside of his head, he believed the only way to stop himself was death. Um, so before I move into how he was caught, I want to stop. I want to give names to his victims because this is not just about a predator. It's about 8 young women whose lives ended along quiet roads in the 1980s. Michael Ross confessed to 8 murders committed between 81 and 84. He was ultimately convicted and sentenced to death for 4 of those murders, the later Connecticut killings. So here's what we know. The first name I'm going to struggle with here, Dazung Noktu. Can't pronounce it. I'm very sorry. Uh, 28-year-old who on May 12th was abducted from Warren Hall, May 12th, 1981, was abducted from Warren Hall at Cornell. So his first one was while he was still at Cornell before he was graduated. She was found on May 17th in a creek at the bottom of a gorge near the campus. Officially, the death was ruled a suicide. Years later, Roth confessed to her murder during psychiatric sessions, but he was never charged, and her death remains officially ruled a suicide. Um, but he confessed, so who knows? Tammy Williams, 17-year-old, she on January 5th, 1982, she was walking home from her boyfriend's house in Brooklyn, Connecticut. She was raped and strangled. 16-year-old Paula Pereira on May 2nd, 1982, abducted in Wallkill, New York, while hitchhiking. She was raped and strangled. He then transported her to Connecticut after picking her up. 23-year-old Deborah Smith Taylor, who on June 15th, 1982, her vehicle ran out of fuel near Danielson, Connecticut. She and her husband split up to find help. She was raped and strangled. Her skeletal remains were discovered roughly 4 months later by a jogger. 19-year-old Robin Dawn Stavinsky. She was hitchhiking on November 19th, 1983, near Norwich, Connecticut. She was also raped and strangled. She was later found in a wooded area on the grounds of Norwich State Hospital. This one's kind of the outlier. April Brunei and Leslie Shelley, both age 14. They were abducted on April 22nd, 1984, and walking home together in Griswold, Connecticut. They were taken to Beach Pond in Rhode Island. April was raped, and they were both strangled. Um, Again, this is the outlier because he abducted and killed two in this one.
Okay. And went to Rhode Island.
And yeah, and well, he yes, and
Although,
took him to Rhode Island. Correct.
yeah, Connecticut and Rhode Island and upstate New York are all,
Right. He picked
yeah,
him up in Connecticut though.
yeah.
Wendy Barry Bolt, maybe. Who she was age 17, and on June 13th, 84, she was walking along Route 12 to a convenience store in Griswold, Connecticut. She was raped and strangled and found in a field 2 days later. Witness descriptions of this one is what tied Ross to the murder.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, someone saw him.
yes. So this is where the pattern is. You know, young, vulnerable, most were alone, taken along roads. They were raped and strangled and then left in wooded or rural areas. So this isn't random chaos. This is repetition, and it spanned for 3 years. 8 lives in 3 years in one relatively small region of Connecticut. There were 8 confessions, 4 capital convictions for the 3 years of violence across New England. That's the human cost of this case. For 3 years, he operated in rural Eastern Connecticut and neighboring New York, different towns, different counties, different jurisdictions in the 80s. So again, this is a time period where you had no centralized digital databases, you had no instant cross-state data sharing, no modern DNA systems, which means these cases did not immediately snap together the way they might today. How many cases have I done where we've had to that share this exact thing?
Yep.
But the pattern that was forming, as I said, and investigators began to suspect they were dealing with a serial offender, but they didn't yet have the break they needed. That break came in June of 1984 with Wendy Barry Bolt. It's spelled Baribeault. Barry Bolt, maybe.
Very bold.
Yeah, maybe. So again, she was walking along Route 12 in Griswold, heading to a convenience store, but she never made it. But this time there were witnesses. Several people reported seeing Wendy get into a vehicle. They described the driver and the car. The car mattered because Michael Ross drove what was apparently a very distinctive Toyota. And once police began canvassing and following up on vehicle descriptions, he moved from anonymous predator to a person of interest. He was brought in for questioning. And unlike most serial offenders, he didn't maintain the denial forever. After his arrest in 1984, he eventually confessed, and not just to one, but multiple murders. And that's where everything changed because now investigators could link the cases definitively across county lines, state lines, 3 years of violence, suddenly connected by one man sitting in an interrogation room. Um, it didn't end with a chase or a last minute capture, it just ended with questioning. And it ended with a vehicle description and witness memory. which is sometimes how cases like this break, not with a cinematic flair, but with someone just remembering a car.
Hey, she got into that car. What car? The little yellow Toyota or whatever the hell it was.
Yeah,
What was the license
whatever,
plate? Oh, it
whatever,
had a weird license
whatever,
plate on it.
whatever distinction it was, I
Yeah.
didn't look that up and I probably should have.
Yeah, it makes sense though. I mean, they
Yeah.
found him, they get him to sit him down, and eventually he just like, here's what I did. Here are the other seven that you're probably looking for too.
Well, yes, because he confessed to eight, but legally what matters is the conviction because he was ultimately convicted of four capital felony murders.
Hmm.
The later Connecticut killings, including the April murders of April Brunei, Leslie, Shelley, and Wendy. I'm not going to mispronounce her last name again.
Right.
The state pursued the death penalty, and this is where the case takes a turn and makes it very different. M- Many serial killers fight their appeals endlessly.
Hmm.
They delay, they challenge procedure, they claim innocence, they attack evidence. Michael Ross did something else. After years of appeal and years of legal maneuvering, he chose to stop fighting and he waived further appeals and said he deserved to die. This now triggers a
Yeah.
new kind of battle, not over guilt, but over competency.
Yes. Well, who in their right mind would want to die?
Yes. And so attorneys and advocacy groups argued, was he depressed? Was he suicidal? And was he mentally competent to volunteer for execution? Because that's where the wrinkle is. If someone is mentally ill and they want to die, the state cannot simply grant that wish.
Yeah.
Um, Courts did evaluate him repeatedly, but ultimately he was ruled competent.
Weird
Um,
because most of the serial killers we studied are narcissistic, and the
yes,
narcissist is going to fight because they always think
yes.
eventually they will overcome because they're the smartest person in the room.
Well, but
90% of
here,
the time they're not because their brain doesn't work right.
but here's the deal, and I'm actually about to touch on that point in just a second.
Oh, okay,
So,
cool.
yeah, because hold that thought for just one second. In 2005, he was executed by lethal injection. It was the first execution in New England in decades. 7 years later, in 2012, Connecticut abolished the death penalty, so he now stands as the last person who was executed in the state. And it kind of makes for a strange historical footnote. He committed horrific crimes, he confessed, he stopped fighting, and he became the final execution in Connecticut history. But that's where the question lingers. If a serial killer chooses death, is that justice or is that one final act of control?
Oh,
I
so
talked
maybe he
about
is a
that theory.
narcissist and you just want to
Right.
control
Yeah.
the
And that's
narrative.
why I wanted you to hold that for just 1 second
Okay.
because maybe that what it was. Because control was always central to his
Yeah.
crimes. He had control over his victims, the environment, and over life and death. And in the end, he had control over his own sentence. And that ambiguity is really part of why this case still gets discussed time and time again. Um, was it the final act of control? We'll never know. Connecticut's not a state most people associate with a serial killer. It's very small, it's quiet, it feels very insulated. But Michael
It's
Ross,
very upper middle class.
oh, very much so, very much
Yeah.
so. But Michael Ross reminds us that geography does not prevent predator behavior. He was
No.
not chaotic or visibly unraveling, and he wasn't the stereotype. He was educated, composed, and functioning. And that's what unsettles a lot of people. We like to believe the danger announces itself. We like to believe there were signs that evil looks disheveled, that they're unstable, that they're obvious, but sometimes they drive a normal car down a two-lane road and offers a ride.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at Bundy. That
Yes,
dude looked real unassuming.
yes.
David
So
Berkowitz looked like a kid.
so did the Green River Killer. So did
Yeah.
BTK. That's some of those. Um, Roth confessed to eight murders, eventually convicted of four. He chose to stop fighting his own execution. Um, and the lesson here might not just be about one man. It may be about how predators adapt to their environment, and how opportunity meets impulse, and how trust culture shifts over time. Because maybe it's this that the most dangerous people aren't always the loudest. Sometimes they're the quietest person in the room, the fine, upstanding citizen. So Connecticut, you're officially back on the board.
Yay. And we already did Delaware, so
We did
101.
Delaware. So that officially puts Connecticut back on the books. I fixed the mistake of skipping Connecticut. We survived my spelling abilities. But that's the beauty of doing these A to Z Across America series live. These are not polished in a lab. I don't script these 6 months in advance. It's real, and sometimes we might skip a state, might circle back, but the road keeps moving forward.
Yes.
This is kind of fitting for an episode about a serial killer who used the road as an opportunity. So I'm hoping I did not get my alphabet wrong because next on the list should be Georgia.
I think you're
Uh,
right.
no skipping, no scenic detours, just straight south. So if you're following along alphabetically, I'm going to be back at it. Buckle up because Georgia has its own dark history waiting for us.
Oh, yeah.
And that is my story for this week. And I just wanted to say, stay safe, stay aware, and maybe just think twice before getting into a stranger's car. I'll see you in
Yes.
Georgia.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Sorry I had to skip around like that, but I did. But I
It's
thought
fine.
that one was eerily fascinating.
Yeah.
I was glad I found that one and got to cover that one. That was really cool. So that will take us to the end of another recording week. As always, you can find us at nerdyandmurdy.com, our hub, our website for you'll find links to various things as well as the link to our YouTube page with Zig reference and so often updates.
Yeah. Check this one out because it's got all the music in it.
Awesome.
Again,
Appreciate
I
that.
would recommend watching this in the YouTube playlist because it's usually at the bottom when it comes
Yeah.
out. Pausing it, go listen to the song,
Agreed.
and it makes more
Agreed.
sense.
It's the best way to listen to this. I agree
Yeah.
with that wholeheartedly. On our website, you'll also find the link to our merchandise page. If you wish to show off your nerdery and murdery fandom, please do consider purchasing something for that. You can go out, show people that you love our show, and maybe get some others to love our show as well. And let's face it, you look damn good in it.
Damn good.
Damn good. You can also find the link to our Patreon if you wish to become a patron. That, along with our merchandise, do help with the costs that are associated with the show. It is not free. It is not. It is not simple. There are costs for our downloads, for our website, for our uploads, everything that's associated with that. It does not feed our fabulous Lamborghinis, mansions, or vacations that we don't take, but we do appreciate each and every one of you.
Please and thank you.
Please and thank you. Last but not, or not last but not least, one thing you can do for free that only takes about a minute or two is go give us a 5-star review wherever you can. The algorithms bite on that and help the other people find the information we may be discussing. So please do that. And last but certainly not least, to our good friend Chuck, you can go to sleep now.
Good night, Chuck.
Good night, Chuck. With that,
I have been Zig with your nerdery.
and I'm Jeffrey with your murdering.
Cue the music.